When Sally Ride passed away from cancer 2 years ago, the nation mourned the loss of an incredible woman. She was the first American woman in space, breaking through the glass ceiling and paving the way for female astronauts. Her life outside of NASA, though, was extremely private, and those closest to her knew the true Sally Ride. People like Lynn Sherr, a close friend and confidant to Ride, who's now written a new book called Sally Ride, America's First Woman in Space. Welcome, Lynn. It's so nice to meet you.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here.
It's good to have you. So you were a very good friend to her.
I was. I met Sally in 1981 when I was first assigned to cover NASA. And this, of course, was the beginning of the space shuttle. Space shuttle hadn't happened yet.
Right.
And Sally was one of the first people I met at the Johnson Space Center in Houston. And the two of us just hit it off. She was young. She was a woman who acknowledged immediately she would not have been there if it weren't for the women's movement. She didn't try to pretend she had done this on her own. This was something, she said, a lot of people helped get her there. And she was just very different from the astronauts we had all grown up with.
Right, right. And so as this friendship developed, then she began to share things with you about her private life that she wouldn't expose to anybody else. And therefore, things were obviously put in your book.
Well, yeah, but a lot of these things I didn't know until I wrote the book. Sally died, as you said, 2 years ago, and only when she died was it revealed that she'd been in a partnership with another woman for 27 years. And this was not something that the world had known. She had been married to another astronaut, Steve Hawley, for 5 years, but her relationship with Tam O'Shaughnessy became the love relationship of her life, and this was something that very few people, including me, knew for sure until she died. So that whole story is also in the book.
Why do you think she was so private with something like that? What were the reasons for that?
Especially being so supportive of the women's movement.
Exactly. Well, I think it was the time, you know, when Tam and Sally got together, it was 1987, 86, and it was a different era. Now these things don't matter so much anymore, and people are much more tolerant. This was the fallout from an intolerant society, and I think also Sally was very protective of NASA. NASA was not exactly the most progressive socially organization, and I think Sally wanted to protect the other astronauts and the astronaut office.
And she remained so close with NASA, right?
She was in partnership with NASA for a number of huge million-dollar projects for a long time. And involved even into the investigations of some of the catastrophes that they had had. She was a major player in investigating both the Challenger explosion and the Columbia disintegration, and played a huge role in those. She is a wonderful role model for your daughters, your granddaughters, your sons. She's just an amazing woman.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Was there one thing, after speaking with her for so long and getting to know her the way that you did, one thing that really stood out and surprised you that you were really excited to include in the book?
What I was really excited to include was the fact that she was a mischievous, playful, funny, witty individual, and I see her in shorts and a T-shirt and flip-flops. That's the way she liked to be. But I think what amazed me was her role in her ability to keep secrets, not only about her relationship with Tam, but this is a woman who was always reading classified government documents. She was on presidential commissions. She knew stuff that I never knew she knew, and that she had a secret rendezvous with a Soviet cosmonaut one night, a clandestine midnight rendezvous that she wasn't supposed to have. The State Department would have been furious.
Because of the Cold War, right?
Because of the Cold War. Enemy. The State Department said, no fraternizing with the enemy. This is 1983. And Sally said, wait a minute, this is another woman that's been in space. I want to meet her. And they had this is quintessential Sally. She liked to push the envelope when nobody would get in trouble. She was not about to break rules when it was a bad thing, but she was just so much fun. She was a wonderful human being, and what she really cared about was getting girls interested in science. She wanted to turn them on to the excitement of science that she saw.
What about a favorite memory of yours with her? You know, we know Sally Ride, the astronaut. What about a favorite sort of off-the-cuff memory you might have of her?
Two things. One would be eating shrimp and drinking beer at a number of dives near the Johnson Space Center. At a place, there was one place that always promised mud wrestling on Friday nights, which we managed to avoid. And my other great images used to stay with me at my apartment in New York from time to time. And out during the day, she'd be slaying dragons and doing serious work. And I'd find her at night, flopped on my living room floor, shoes off, legs on the coffee table, watching television. She always said she knew how to flip the switch marked oblivious.
Oh,
she
I
could
love
just
that.
turn it off.
Oh, I love that. Oh,
Right.
that is
We
great.
need that switch.
Yes.
Indeed.
Where's mine?
And she was
That's
a
a
great
good thing.
compartmentalizer. She could focus. Her roommate at Stanford said she could study through a whistling tea kettle.
Oh, wow.
And then she could go home and watch TV, and she was a big James Bond fan.
Love
among other
it.
things.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Love it.
Wow. Well, she was definitely a pioneer.
She
And,
was a pioneer, and as I say, a great role model. She taught me to fly without ever leaving Earth.
Wow.
That's,
I love that.
Oh, that's awesome, Lynn.
Wow.
Well, thank you for being here. We
Thank
just loved
you.
getting to meet you.
And a lot more people tonight I'll be talking to as
Good.
well at the...
We're going to tell them now. You
Yeah.
can meet
Right.
Lynn.
Perfect.
And you can also talk to her about her new book and pick up a copy of her to sign tonight at 7 at the Highland Park United Methodist Church on Mockingbirds, where you're
I knew
gonna
I
be.
could get it out. I knew if I focused on it.
That's where
Thank you
you're
for
going to
being
be.
here.
That's where you're going
Will
to
you
be.
come home with me
Of
and
course I
finish all
will.
my sentences?
Of course, for half a day. For details, just head to thebroadcasttv.com and click on today's links. And when the broadcast returns, we're in the kitchen with a chicken recipe that screams summer. See what Chef Christy Rost is whipping up after the break.